Hey, what's happening, good people? I'm Lil Guillotine, and you're tuned in to another episode of The Chopping Block.
Guillotine and your neck meets beautifully.
The Chopping Block. I want to talk with you today about the case of Ahmaud Arbery, the black man who was jogging in a small Georgia town when two white supremacist cops murdered him in cold blood. First of all, let me explain to you why I referred to those folks as two white supremacist cops, right? We know that the history of the police is that they exist to enforce racist hierarchies in society, having their history in slave patrols in the United States and then evolving into the racist status quo enforcing apparatus that they are today. The son of the ex-cop who actually killed Arbery with a shotgun used to work in the district attorney's office. And we know that the role of the district attorney is also to enforce the white supremacist status quo of this white supremacist patriarchal capitalist system that we live in. Just like the cops, they are agents of the racist state, minus the actual ability to conduct the murder personally, rather they enforce it through the so-called criminal justice system. The fact that these two men that murdered Ahmaud Arbery are one an ex-cop and another one an ex-district attorney worker is evidence enough that they're white supremacists, because they both used to work upholding the mechanisms of the white supremacist capitalist system. That's why I will be referring to these two people who killed Arbery as white supremacist cops. So far, some of the excuses that these white supremacist cops have given for killing Ahmaud Arbery in cold blood as he jogged down the street are absolutely ridiculous. They say they thought he was a burglar, and so they grabbed their guns and they followed him. How on earth is that a legitimate response to thinking someone is a burglar? When asked by the 911 operator what crime that Arbery had committed, the white cops said, "He is a black man running down our street." Owning up to their reputation as upholders of the white supremacist status quo, white liberals around the country with endless excuses for why it was okay for these racist white supremacist cops to have murdered Arbery, exhibiting the role that whiteness plays in policing itself. When we say justice for Ahmaud Arbery and your response is, "But he stole some stuff," your passion for the death of the black body, for the death of Ahmaud Arbery, is showing glaringly. The racist criminal injustice system conditions the white psyche to think that somehow death is a legitimate reciprocal punishment for crimes of poverty, especially for black people, since that's who the criminal justice system targets disproportionately. I'll also point out that there exists zero evidence that Ahmaud Arbery actually stole anything, despite the newly surfaced footage of Ahmaud Arbery in the new house construction site. The white liberals cling to these rationalizations, but an even more powerful motivator for whiteness to cling to the idea that killing of black people by white folks is always legitimate are the psychological wages that are granted to white people whenever a black person is killed in this society. Because of the illegitimacy of the existence of this hierarchical, death-profiting, oppressive, patriarchal capitalist society, whiteness and white people would not be seen as legitimate entities if there didn't exist the death of black people, both socially and physically, with which to posit them off of. And thus the social order is preserved, saving the ruling classes from simply being overthrown by white working class folks acting in their interest as oppressed workers against the bourgeoisie and ruling classes. And so you see, whiteness is pacified from rebellion and posited as legitimate societal entities through the death of the black body. The straws that whiteness will grasp at to legitimize the death of black people in this country are infinite, because they cannot afford to release the psychological benefits granted to them from violence on black bodies, else they would cease to exist as legitimate entities in civil society and cause a rift in the whole psychological system of pacification that civil society utilizes. Whiteness needs violence on black bodies in order to exist, but it also needs the social death of blackness when not feeding upon the perpetual violence that happens to black people. The social death and the physical death are one and the same thing in the way that civil society is constructed. This is why whiteness will also act parasitically upon black culture, usurping it via cultural appropriation as a necessary precursor to being granted legitimacy in the eyes of civil society, at least until that society is wholly upended and completely destroyed. When you say Arbery attacked those white supremacist cops, as a response when we say justice for Ahmaud Arbery, your whiteness is showing because you cannot afford to see a black body as having legitimacy to exist, or fear of losing your own legitimacy in the eyes of civil society for existing yourself. This is especially so if you see that after having viewed the footage that's going around of the murder, which I refuse to share here because distributing images of violence on black bodies mostly serves to provide consumption of black death to white eyes, which maintains the racist status quo of civil society. Those white supremacist cops were clearly hunting down Arbery and menacing him for racist reasons while brandishing deadly weapons. And so, black bodies do not exist as a legitimate entity in modern white supremacist civil society. That's why the white cop and his white ex-district attorney's son felt like they had domain over Arbery's body, and that's why the white liberals and whiteness in general has endless excuses and rationalizations for why it was okay for these white supremacist cops to kill Arbery. And what is the reasoning behind the police departments claiming that there was not probable cause to arrest these white supremacist cops who killed Arbery? Well, as we talked about before, the police themselves act as enforcers of the racist status quo, delivering violence on black bodies in order to legitimize whiteness in civil society. The police departments failing to arrest these white supremacist murderers serves to give state legitimacy to whiteness's domain over the black body in society. And so we say again, justice for Ahmaud Arbery. Fuck the police, fire to the prisons. Solidarity with the comrades standing up for justice for Ahmaud Arbery. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Be sure to click that like and subscribe button. Let me know in the comments if you agree, if you disagree, or if you have any questions. We'll catch you on the flip. Peace out.